Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. For today's look, I'm going to use the Huda Beauty Rosegold palette, and I did a gold smoky eye, so if you like what you see, please keep on watching. So for today's look, we're going to use the Huda Beauty Rosegold palette, and we're going to start off with the shades Sandalwood and Shy with the Morphe M505. We're going to really focus those two colors in the crease area, and that's going to be my transition shade. Meanwhile, I do the same steps going back and forth with Shy and Sandalwood. I'm going to blend them out a little bit more and keep adding them in so it intensifies the look. But I also wanted to add like a little mini review of the Huda Beauty palette. I really like the shades. They're very matte and they blend so seamlessly. I believe they're more of like glitter shades. They are so intense, and the only thing is that you do have to use your fingers. So if you have long nails, it does kind of create a bit of a problem. But besides that, they are so pigmented and so buttery. I just love this eyeshadow palette. With my Morphe E23, I am going to blend out any harsh lines that I might have done when I was applying the crease shadows. And I really like this brush because it's very big and fluffy. And anytime I try to blend out the shades, it blends them out so perfectly. Going in with this blending brush from Elizabeth Mott, I'm going to add the color Henna and Bossy, also to deepen up the crease and just to add a little bit more of dimension. Another thing I wanted to add about the Huda Beauty palette is that when you do use these shades, you want to start off with a light hand. But I usually always like to use the light hand because it helps you with the blending process. Now I'm just going side to side using the windshield wiping motions. I don't know why that word makes me stutter so much. And making sure you're going all the way into the inner crease and the outer crease, and going back in with the E23, just blending out any harsh lines or edges that you might have created while adding the intenser shades. With my E17, I'm going to pick up this shade in Cocoa. It's a nice rich brown shade. What I'm going to do is start it off on the outer corner of the eye and just use a very light hand. I'm going to blend this color all the way into the inner corner, but I want to work it as slow as possible because if you add too much color or you work too fast, it's just going to create really harsh lines that you won't even be able to blend out with a fluffier brush. But if you see that you don't have enough pigment, you can always go back into the shade and add more. You can always add more, but it's a little bit harder to blend it if you start with too much. Going back in with my E23, I'm just going to blend all those shades in together. Now for my favorite part, I'm going to pick up the 24K. And it's a very, very golden shade, and oh my goodness, I love these glitters. They're so intense, as you can see. I apologize for my awkward faces. They're so intense, and I didn't have to use any water or any setting spray to add intensity. They're just very buttery and creamy, and they're just so rich in the glitter that they have in. I don't know what she did for this formula, but it just works so perfectly. Like I said, you do have to use your fingers to apply these shades, but if you have long fingernails, I believe people use a wet synthetic brush. They just wet it with a little bit of water or with setting spray, and they just add the shade onto their eyelid. Going back in with my Elizabeth Mott blending brush, I'm not adding any more pigment onto the eyeshadow brush. I'm just blending out any harsh edges I might have created with my finger. To add a nice pop to the brow bone, I'm going in with my Milani highlighter in Sunlight 01 with a small pencil brush. I also like to blend this just a little bit and add a nice little pop into the inner corner of my eye. Now with my Morphe 438, I'm just gonna clean off all of that setting powder that I put under my eye and all over my face. I did notice that the inner corner wasn't bright enough, so I just went back in again and added a little bit more of the highlight. Using my Elizabeth Mott brush, I'm just gonna blend out those edges one more time. For my liquid eyeliner, I'm once again gonna be using the NYC liquid liner, And I'm going to start off with a simple base as close to the lash line as I possibly can go. Doing your eyeliner, you sometimes have harsh ridges, so it's better to start as close to the lash line as possible, and you can always add more eyeliner to clean up those edges. When doing my wing, I like to have very minimal product on the brush, only because it keeps me a little bit safer and it keeps that line nice and sharp. If you have too much product on the brush, it'll sometimes bleed and it just messes up your whole wing altogether. Now that you have a basic idea of what you want your wing to look like, you fill in those gaps and you work your way back into the eyeliner. Again, using very minimal product, you want to take smaller steps into the eyeliner and move slowly inward and outward of the eye. For mascara, I'm using my favorite mascara of all time, which is the L'Oreal Voluminous Carbon Black Mascara. I know it looks a little weird, but I like to blink when I'm using my mascara because it saves me from pulling too hard up and I don't get any mascara marks on my eyeshadow. For eyelashes, I'm using the House of Lashes and Sephora collection in the style Everlasting. These lashes are so nice and wispy on the outer part and they look very natural as well. I'm also using the Duo in white because if I use the darker glue, sometimes what will happen is the eyelashes won't stick and the eyelash falls on top of the eyeshadow and it has a darker shade of glue. And if the white one falls on top of the eyeshadow, all I do is just add a little bit more of the eyeshadow on. And you can't even tell that the glue was on the eyeshadow. Another thing I like to do is use tweezers to add my eyelashes, only because it allows me to get the band as close to the eyelashes as possible. It really helps because it makes your eyelashes look very blended in and it doesn't have a gap. Another thing I've noticed is if you don't let your eyelash glue get tacky or dry a little bit before you add them on, it makes the process so much harder because the glue is very wet and it doesn't want to stick to anything. It's very watery and it creates just a hot mess as well. I know applying eyelashes can be very tricky, so I like to keep my eyes somewhat open because if you leave them closed and try to add the lash onto your eye, it'll sometimes transfer to the lower lash line, and when you try to open your eye, it just makes it really hard and it can also pull the lash band off and you have to restart the process all over again. While I let my eyelashes set, I'm gonna pick up the shade Shy and Sandalwood with a flat brush. The only thing I did notice about this part was that the colors were not really sticking to the lower lash line. And I think that might have been because I had set my under eye with translucent powder and it wasn't letting the shades really stick there. If this happens, it's okay. You can just go back in with the same shades and keep adding them until you get the intensity that you desire. But to create that smoky lash line, I like to pull the color all the way from the inner corner to all the way passing the outer corner and connecting it to the wing. Picking up the shades Bossy and Cocoa, I'm using my E18 brush, and this is just going to add that richer, intense, smoky eye look. By blending out those shades from the lower lash line towards the wing, it really helps keep that whole look connected and blended together. Picking up this eyeliner from It Cosmetics, I'm going to add it to the lower lash line and to the upper lash line. You can really use any eyeliner that you like. I just really like this one because it seems to last a really long time and I don't have to reapply. And now that eyeshadow look is done. With my M438, I'm going to clean off all of that translucent powder that I used to set my face. To contour, I'm going to use this bronze booster from Physicians Formula. I'm going to use my Coastal Scents angled brush and I'm going to contour my nose with that. I'm picking up the middle shade because it's nice and cool toned and it doesn't make my nose look too bronzy. When contouring my nose, I like to focus on the front part of my nose and also on the lower sides. Once I get the contoured effect that I like, I don't add any more product onto the brush and I try to move that product up into the brows. By doing this, it really helps your contour look a lot more blended and seamless. To highlight my nose, I'm going to use this Milani highlighter in the shade Sunlight 01. I'm picking up the lighter part of the highlight and I'm going to use my pinky to add the highlight to my nose. I like to use my ring finger because it doesn't have any added product and it creates that blended effect from highlight to skin tone. I know I get a little heavy-handed with my highlight, so I do have to go back in with my contouring brush and fix up that contour. To contour my face, I'm going to use both of those shades with an angled brush and I'm going to carve out underneath the cheekbone. To make sure your contour is nice and blended, you do want to move up and down the sides of the face and work those shades into the hairline. Now to kind of hide my double chin, I'm going to go back into my contouring palette and carve out underneath the jawline. I like to move side to side and a little bit in circular motions just so it doesn't look like a harsh line. And you want to move that product down into the neckline as well. When contouring your forehead, you want to use very minimal product because if you start off too strong, it does create like a bronze helmet and no one really likes that look. So really work that product into the hairline and blend it out as much as you can. My Milani Make It Last setting spray, I'm going to spray that all over the face before I highlight. Let it dry just a little bit but not all the way. Picking up the M510, I'm going to pick up the lightest shade from the highlighting palette that I used previously. And I'm going to add that on the highest parts of my cheek. By using the setting spray before you highlight, it really makes the highlight look super intense. You don't have to do that step because some highlighters are very pigmented on their own, but sometimes if they're not pigmented, this is really a helpful way to make them look super intense. Once I'm done highlighting the cheeks, I move up to the forehead and I don't like to add too much product for this part because it makes it look very shiny and it doesn't blend in as well. But it's up to your personal preference. If you like to create an intense look on your forehead, that's totally fine. I also like to add a little bit on my chin just so it gives it that healthy glow. Once I'm done with my highlighting, I like to go back with my NYC liquid liner to blend in where my lash band and my eyeliner is. Now, I'm going to go in with this Jouer lip cream in the color Lychee. I really hope I'm saying that name right, but this shade is a soft pink and the finish is matte, but I did notice that it dries very quickly, so you have to be fast when working with it. Another thing I didn't like about this formulation is if you try to rub your lips together, it kind of feels very chalky, and the longer you have it on during the day, it doesn't feel very comfortable. Now to apply the liquid lipstick, you want to start in the center of the lips and work your way out. If you don't use a lip liner, this is the best way to do it because you can use very minimal product to outline the lips and it doesn't bleed out. If you like to overdraw your lips like I do, it's always best to use matte shades. Shimmery shades for some reason aren't that great because it accentuates the higher points of your lips and shows where your actual lip line starts and stops. Now that your look is almost complete, you can put on some blush, And sometimes I like to do this step a little bit at the end because it helps blend in that contour and the highlight. I'm using this blush from Tarte in the shade Paaarty with my Morphe G4 brush. This brush is nice and soft and very fluffy, so if you smile a little bit and add the color, it works great. Again, I'm going to use my Milani Make It Last setting spray, and I'm setting my whole look. I like to apply my mascara at the very end. If I do it before I set my whole face, it's going to bleed through and mess up my foundation underneath my eye. And here is the finished look. I hope you guys liked watching and learned something new today. I'll try to post every week, so if you want to stay updated and notified, please subscribe to my channel. I also post on my Snapchat and Instagram. If you guys want to follow me, I'll leave them posted in my description box below. Please hit that like button, leave me a beautiful comment, and have a great rest of your day. Bye! Girl, girl. So you gotta put it back right now.